Investor says we are facing tough times, what he calls a super bubble. He's written about it in an ebook that's being released called The New Paradigm for Financial Markets. I spoke with him recently about where he thinks the economy is right now and why the book is being released now on the internet.
I think it's relevant to explain what is happening. And this was a good moment because, with the bailout of Bear Stearns, there's some relief.
Let's talk about the latest news of the day, this overhaul of the financial structure of this country. What do you make of the latest news? Is this the right move?
Well, no, I think that what you need is new thinking, not a reshuffling of deck chairs. You really have to recognize something about financial markets that currently is not recognized, and that is that markets don't tend to equilibrium. Who's
in charge? You've got Enron, all those billions of dollars lost there. You had .com, all those billions of dollars lost there. Now all this wealth lost at so many firms and in the markets. I mean, who's in charge?
Well, this is how the system has actually developed. That's how central banking came into existence, because ever since you have had markets, you have had crises. And then every crisis, you examined what went wrong, and you put in some regulations, some arrangement that would prevent a recurrence of that. Then something else would come up, right? But so this way, the system got more and more sophisticated. And I think we reached a point of no return. So this is now, this time, it's for real. The Fed cannot anymore deal with the situation the way it did before. It's trying, and it's to some extent succeeding, but it cannot prevent either a recession or an increasing unwillingness to hold dollars. So you have two limitations. One is the prospect of recession and the prospect of inflation.
In the book, you talk about facing both of those issues, obviously, and the flight from the dollar. Do you think right now we've seen the worst in terms of those events?
Well, I think we have probably seen the worst of fear of an institution failing, because the Fed has demonstrated its determination not to allow that to happen. And I think the market has sort of had a sigh of relief. But the consequences are yet to come. I mean, the housing prices have just begun to fall, and they are actually now falling at an accelerating rate. Consumers are just beginning to wake up to the fact that their houses can't serve as a piggy bank. You've got 7 million subprime mortgages, of which maybe 40% is going to default in the next 2 years. Then you have got these option rate arms, and these are about the same order of magnitude. So you have this will take longer than 2 years. So you have probably over 5 million defaults facing you.
So are you finding opportunities in the current situation in the U.S.?
Basically, this is a time of destruction of financial wealth. So if you can just avoid losing money, you are ahead of the game.
What about international? Are you still investing internationally?
Yes, I do. And basically, I think the situation in some other parts of the world is better than it is here.
Where?
But for instance, I mean, I invested heavily in India, and I had my head handed to me.
Where else around the world might be opportunistic right now?
Well, the other thing, of course, is China has a currency that's undervalued and has got to be brought up in value. It's appreciating now since the beginning of the year between 15 and 20% per annum.
You also talk about the super bubble, which you say has been building for 25 years.
Yes. Now, in the super bubble, the trend is credit creation. The volume of credit in the economy is growing much faster than the economy itself, ever since the end of the Second World War. So that's the trend. The misconception is that financial markets are tending towards equilibrium, and that's false. So the two together gave you this super bubble.
Final question about what's occurring in commodities. How big of a fall could we see in terms of the bubble bursting? A lot of people say, look, the fundamentals are there, but not to the extent that we've seen prices elevated throughout commodities.
Well, there is definitely a commodities bubble developing because there's a flight from currencies. People don't want to, the rest of the world doesn't want to hold as many dollars as we want to give them, and there is not suitable alternative, and the alternatives are now very overvalued. So a lot of people have shifted to commodities, and that will also correct.